What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Are the D-backs pulling us back in after destroying the Mariners in Game 2, 10-3, and winning another series?
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're going to be discussing if the D-backs are pulling us back in, familiar faces that are going to be X factors down the stretch, and then can E-Rod do his best Brandon Pfaadt impression in the finale. So a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about on today's podcast, but first I want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. This is an interactive show. I try to go live Sunday through Thursday after D-backs games. If you watch it live, drop a comment in the YouTube section. I will try to read it on the air as it's going on. But always remember, you can always get notified when I go live by following me on socials at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. But now, let's get into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. D-backs beat the Seattle Mariners in game number 2. They kind of obliterate them a little bit, 10-3. And now the question is, are the Arizona Diamondbacks pulling us back in? Because we've seen so many injuries to this D-backs team. Corbin Burns now out with Tommy John, right? Broadcast is talking and speculating, yeah, it's not looking too good for Justin Martinez. You got Kendall Graveman on the injury list. A whole bunch of guys we've been putting on the injury list, right? A lot of injuries, a lot of heartbreak. The bullpen, even when this D-backs team was healthy, the bullpen has been struggling, giving up runs left and right. And so it's been a very miserable season for the D-backs. But as we keep saying, 2023 was also a miserable year for the D-backs, at least in the first half of the year. And the thing that got the D-backs going, where we were able to finish with 89 wins and put ourselves in position for a potential playoff spot, the month of June was so critical. 16-11 in the month of June 24, 16-11 in the month of June of 2023. The D-backs, they only played 26 games in the month of June in 2025, but they can still go 16-10. And another victory against the Seattle Mariners tonight puts them a little bit closer to that 16-win total. Everyone tonight offensively, except for basically Eugenio Suarez and Pavin Smith, they put in work. This was a great offensive performance. D-backs, double-digit runs. It was kind of a ho-hum game by the D-backs because Brandon Pfaadt did his job. The offense destroyed it. The bullpen was pretty good as well. And the defense, all phases of this D-backs team did their job tonight. Pfaadt ran into a lot of trouble, ran into some traffic, but he was able to dance around, deliver a solid start. The bullpen did their job. And again, I think the undersung hero of tonight's game was that D-backs defense, which has been so maligned in 2025, which has been so up and down this season. I mean, Eugenio Suarez, still a better defensive third baseman than some of the guys we've had the last few years, but 9 errors over there in 2025, not so good. But tonight, Great showing. You could put together a highlight reel of defensive plays from this game tonight. You got the Gurriel incredible catch in left field. I mean, Cal Raleigh has to be pissed after the game tonight because he borderline had a cycle tonight, but you didn't know because they were all out. Marte made a couple of very smart defensive plays up the middle. Moreno had a nice little catch. Naylor made like a diving stop. Carroll, Perdomo, like really everyone on this D-backs team had a bunch of defensive highlights today. It was really good to see. D-backs need to continue to play like this, high level, all phases of the game, because we know the month of June, as we keep saying, it needs to be their month where they turn around the season. And I think a win tomorrow against the Seattle Mariners, sweeping again, like the D-backs have a chance of doing something so weird. They could start the month of June sweeping, sweeping. They swept the Braves. They got swept against the Cincinnati Reds. Now they could go sweep the Seattle Mariners with a win tomorrow. Such a weird month, but I think with a win tomorrow, starting the month of June, 7-3 as opposed to 6-4, just feels like a world of difference, right? I think if you're 7-3, it feels like you've been dominant. It feels like you've been great over the last couple of weeks. But if you go 6-4, it's like you've been good. You've been fine. You've been average, but you haven't really dominated your opponents. And so the D-backs, I think, need to get the win tomorrow in this series finale and complete the sweep over the Seattle Mariners. And I would love for the offense to show up once again like they did tonight. 2 triples from Corbin Carroll to extend his major league lead. I think Ketel Marte extended his on-base streak to what? I think it's 23 games now. Drop a comment if I got that wrong. I think the broadcast said 23 games. Jerry came through. Big situational hitting tonight with men on third base. Alec Thomas, great 8 Bs in this game tonight. Really like him as the number 9 guy with Carroll at the top of the order. Moreno, back from his hand injury. I was so worried about him because it feels like every time Moreno is hot, every time he gets going, he gets hurt, right? That has been like the story of Moreno's career with the D-backs. You look at his splits, it'll be like, oh my God, June, he's batting 350, and then all of a sudden he's out like the next 20 games. And so glad to see it wasn't a serious injury. Moreno entered tonight's game with a 328 average and a 964 OPS over over his last 16 games. So good to see that he kept his hot streak going. Another guy who's been hot recently, Lourdes Gurriel. Ever since I called him like the worst number 3 hitter in baseball, he's been fantastic. Coming off the month of May with over 300 average, over 900 OPS. Huge home run in the game tonight. And then Brandon Pfaadt. I thought it was a positive start for him. Yes, he ran into a lot of trouble. He gave up a couple home runs in the 6th inning, but he did his job and didn't allow big damage when there was runners on the bases. And personally, I probably would have pulled Brandon Pfaadt after he gave up the first home run, but we'll save that criticism for another time. We did see Taylor Scott in this game, journeyman with terrible numbers. D-backs always need a weak link in their bullpen. They always need one guy where you're like, why is this guy pitching for the D-backs? Aren't we a good team? Aren't we trying to win games? Taylor Scott has replaced that Scott McGuff, Miguel Castro, that one guy who you just never trust. We'll be optimistic with Taylor Scott, but considering he's a journeyman with a career 5 ERA and has a low 90s fastball, I'm not feeling too good. We did see Bryce Jarvis tonight. He's back after spending some time in Reno. And I want to talk more about Bryce Jarvis because I think familiar faces are going to be a huge X factor for the D-backs this month and going forward if the D-backs want to get back into it. So we'll discuss that in segment number 2. Hey, but first, I want to talk to you guys about Monarch Money because ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Plus, it's helped me save save on calories as well, cut back on my eating. Now the gains are coming in just in time for the summer. So Monarch Money has not only saved my pockets, but also my gut as well. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, let's read a couple of comments. Coda Kid said, "What up, fellas? Missed the game. Now tell me what happened." Well, glad you're listening to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, Coda Kid, so we could catch you up on all the information. But now I want to talk about X factors for the D-backs and specifically familiar faces. Guys who are coming back to the D-backs. We already saw the D-backs make a couple of roster moves, bringing back Bryce Jarvis, Kevin Ginkel, and then I think there's one more mystery guy that I'll save for the end of the segment that I think could be an X factor for the D-backs going forward. But the first guy is someone that we saw tonight, Bryce Jarvis. I think we forget how important Bryce Jarvis was to the D-backs last year. And if he can get back to that level, Bryce Jarvis does have the potential to be a legitimate back-end arm, a mid to high leverage reliever, or at least a long man, considering he's mostly been a starter in his career. But I think Bryce Jarvis is talented. I like his stuff. And if he can get back to the level he was last year, that could be a major X factor for the D-backs, because we forget Bryce Jarvis was so good before he got injured last year. Bryce Jarvis, if you look at the 2024 pitching staff for the D-backs and look at innings pitched, he finished 11th among all D-backs pitchers. And you say, 11th? That's not that high for a guy you're raving about. 59 innings pitched. And the thing with Bryce Jarvis, he got hurt, what was it, like July? 59 innings pitched and being 11th on the team in innings pitched last year. He had 1 out less than Joe Mantiply. He had 11 innings less than Kevin Ginkel. Kevin Ginkel appeared in 72 games. Bryce Jarvis appeared in 44. If Bryce Jarvis didn't get hurt, Bryce Jarvis might have finished like 4th on the team in innings pitched. Like, you would have been like, did Bryce Jarvis start half the season for the D-backs? You'd have been like, no. It just, he pitches 3 times a week, and every time he pitches, he does multiple innings. And that can be a huge X factor for this D-backs team, considering there's so many relievers we don't like, we don't trust. If you have a guy that could give you multi-innings and be good, like we saw tonight, yes, he ran into a little bit of trouble, gave up an earned run, but 1 earned run over 3 innings pitch. The D-backs need a guy that can go from inning to inning, get the ball from one guy to another, because whenever you have an outing like you had tonight for Brandon Pfaadt, where he basically just goes 5 innings pitched, like, you don't want to start now all of a sudden, hey, let's try to get 4 or 5 relievers to piece this game together and try to get us the victory. If you can have one guy that could get you multiple innings, I think that's way more valuable than having, a horde of dudes that you're like, okay, I got to use this guy in this situation. Now let me get my lefty out in that situation. If I could just have one reliever that could get me 6 outs, I would much rather have that. And Bryce Jarvis can be that guy for the D-backs. He needs to get his velo back to where it was last year. He was a guy sitting mid to upper 90s, 95, 96. Now he's in more of that 93, 94, 95 range. And so if he could get his velo back up, he's already proven to be good once for the D-backs in the bullpen. I think he's got solid stuff. And he's the kind of guy, young, still has some upside. I want to see him get the opportunities over the Taylor Scotts of the world. And so Bryce Jarvis is someone I'm definitely looking at as an X factor. Another guy, Kevin Ginkel, who we also just recalled. We didn't see him in the game tonight. Maybe that's for the best, because Ginkel has very much struggled in 2025. And if the D-backs are up 7 runs and Ginkel blows that, that would definitely destroy his confidence, because he's given up 14 runs in 10 innings pitched in 2025. He's been really bad for the D-backs this year, but Ginkel is someone that has been a staple for Arizona the last 3 seasons. And that's why he's an X factor, because if he can get back to the level that we know he has from the last few seasons, there's no reason he should be this bad. It's not like Kevin Ginkel is 39 and he can't throw a fastball anymore, or his stuff doesn't break. Like, he should be the same level that he's been at the last 3 seasons. And so if we can get this guy back to 2024, 2023, like that is a shutdown 8th inning guy. Do I trust him in the ninth to close out games with J Mart out? I definitely do not subscribe to that. But do I trust him in the 8th to get the ball to Shelby Miller in the ninth? Yes, I do. Kevin Ginkel was nails in the run to the World Series. No earned runs allowed. He's another guy. Velo, a little bit down from last year. Fastball getting crushed in 2025. If you can get Ginkel back to the level that we've seen him at the last couple of seasons, that guy is a real weapon. High leverage reliever, back end arm. The D-backs do not have enough guys that they can trust in these high leverage situations, close games. Who do you call on right now to get you out of a jam? We saw like a week ago, J Mart come out in a big moment in the 8th inning with multiple guys on. Who's that guy for you right now in the D-backs pen? Because I don't think there is one, right? Is it Shelby Miller? I don't know. Like Torey Lovullo will probably go to Ryan Thompson if there's men on the bases and it's a big jam, like because the options just aren't that good. And so if Kevin Ginkel can get back to the level that we've seen at the last few seasons, that's a major X factor. Then the final guy who I teased at the beginning of this segment, who I think could be a major X factor, who's not currently on the D-backs, currently in Reno, who has played a ton for the D-backs the last few seasons. Give me a little Jake the Rake McCarthy. And this is essentially a bet on Pavin Smith continuing to slide, because you look at Pavin Smith's numbers over the last few weeks in the month of May. Pavin Smith had a terrible month of May for the D-backs. And it's like, yeah, he had a very good season last year in the small 60-game sample size. He had a great month of April, but how sustainable is it really for Pavin? He's been striking out at a super high rate. And coming off a month where he batted .240 with a .633 OPS. And if he just continues to slide in the wrong direction, I can't help but feel like maybe Jake McCarthy should get the call up to the major league level, because I've seen Jake McCarthy for a full season be good, be productive for the D-backs. I have yet to see that from Pavin Smith. Jake was great as a rookie. Jake was also great last year. Let's not forget, Jake McCarthy damn near carried us to the postseason 2025, because what he did in both July and August, especially when the D-backs were dealing with injuries, the Christian Walkers and the Ketel Martes, and we were still the best offense in the National League. A big part of it was because of the work of Jake McCarthy last season. If you look at his numbers, right after the All-Star break, the month of July, 345 average, 904 OPS. The month of August, 311 average and an 864 OPS. And he had 26 ribbies in 25 games started. Jake McCarthy was so critical to the D-backs last year down the stretch, and he provides something to the D-backs that Pavin Smith just cannot: team speed. Jake McCarthy has 11 steals right now in Reno. He has over a 300 average. You pull up Jake McCarthy and you start him in that DH spot over Pavin Smith, and you still have Alec Thomas in center field. You can go Jake, Thomas, Carroll, 8-9-1, and then all of a sudden, D-back speed is back. The chaos D-backs are back again. Speed just hasn't been a big enough of a skill that the D-backs have used in 2025. They've been missing that component from their game this season, and Jake McCarthy is so dynamic and can definitely help out the D-backs in that department. And so when I'm looking at the X factors for the rest of June and the rest of 2025, I think we need to really look at some familiar faces. Bryce Jarvis was incredible in 2024, and if he can get back to that level, that's a multi-inning weapon for this D-backs bullpen. Kevin Ginkel, he's been a weapon the last few seasons for the D-backs, and if we can get our 8th inning guy back to the level that he needs to be at, that is a shutdown man. And then Jake the Rake McCarthy, a guy that could hit for average, hit for contact, speed, defense. He's a guy who's also, he's got that moxie. He's got a little bit of an attitude to him. And so I think the D-backs need those vibes in their clubhouse right now. And so I would look at those familiar faces as X factors for the D-backs if they want to get back in the postseason and wild card race. Now we'll discuss if Erod can do his best Brandon Pfaadt impression in segment number 3. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources, the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Let's see if there's any more comments we want to read. DeMar DeRozan fan said, huge game from Alec Thomas, 3 for 3, 4 runs and a home run. Also, Carroll had a great game, 2 triples. I believe D-backs win 10-3. Yes, they do, DeMar DeRozan fan, because that is what the box score says. But DeMar DeRozan fan also says, agreed, Jake could add some much needed speed. But now let's get back into the podcast and discuss the D-backs series finale against the Seattle Mariners and discuss if if Erod can do his best Brandon Pfaadt impression. And the reason I frame it like that is because I was doing a little research before the podcast, of course, as I always do, and I was looking at Erod's numbers versus the Seattle Mariners. And of course, we've seen Erod in 2025, and it just feels like the stars are aligning for this to be a hit galore for the Mariners, because we know Erod in 2025 is not afraid of some contact, giving up 11.6 hits per 9 innings, a 1.65 whip in 2025. Like, the contact, the balls are flying off the bat of opposing teams whenever Erod pitches, because it just hasn't been pretty for the D-backs this season, right? And when looking at the Seattle Mariners lineup, historically, their players going against Erod, it's a lot of damage. This entire Mariners lineup has a 353 average and a 1002 OPS against Erod. Randy Arozarena, he's 5 for 15. JP Crawford, he's 5 for 15. Donovan Solano, he's 4 for 5. Julio Rodriguez, he's 2 for 4. Rowdy Tellez, he's 2 for 3. Like, you go up and down this Mariners lineup, they've all crushed Erod throughout his career. And so I'm already conceding this game as a hit galore by Erod. There's going to be contact, there's going to be traffic, there's going to be runners on the bases. The question is, can he do the Brandon Pfaadt and not give up that home run, not give up that bases clearing double? If he can just avoid the loud, hard contact, that is the recipe to beating this Mariners team, and it's easier said than done. But again, you look at this Mariners team, and who are you scared of in their lineup? There's one guy, Cal Raleigh. Erod, I do not trust you. Cal Raleigh, I know, is a power hitting machine, and Erod is going to try and challenge him tomorrow. But Erod, do not do that. I do not want to see that all. Cal Raleigh is a switch hitter who can go from either side of the plate. He has more home runs this season than Aaron Judge. And if you try to challenge Cal Raleigh, Erod, you will be beat. Cal Raleigh has over 1,000 OPS from both sides of the plate. It does not matter if you're a righty or a lefty. He is crushing everyone in 2025. And so if I'm Erod, I mean, D-backs, got lucky tonight, made some great defensive plays against Cal Raleigh. I do not want to risk it again. Cal Raleigh has been so close to doing such damage to the D-backs in this series. The D-backs have kind of just skated around it every single time. Again, just intentionally walk Cal Raleigh every time he's at the plate tomorrow. Again, who are you scared of on this Mariners team that you're like, I have to pitch to him? Julio Rodriguez is a stud. He's having a so-so season. JP Crawford, he's having a good year. At the end of the day, do you trust players whose OBP is higher than their slug? He's going to put together a great plate appearance, but you don't have to worry about him taking a yard or anything like that. Like, they have a bunch of good players in the Mariners lineup. Crawford, Rodriguez, Polanco, Rosarina, Rowdy Tellez, but none of them are having all-star seasons except for Cal Raleigh. So if you're Erod, do everything in your power to pitch around Cal Raleigh, potentially walk him every single time, because the D-backs need this victory. They need this win. Like I said, they have to go 7-3 to start the month of June. 6-4 just doesn't cut it. It does not sound as sexy as 7-3. And so for Erod, do not pitch to Cal Raleigh at all, because I have a feeling he will be the X factor to destroy us if we try to challenge him. And on the other side, the D-backs offense is going to have their work cut out for them, because Brian Wu of the Seattle Mariners is a stud, 25 years old, 3.07 ERA, strikeout machine, only getting better. Velo went from like 94 miles per hour to like 95.5 this season. Like, he's a monster, and he's not going to be easy to be taken down. I was combing through his stats, trying to find anything that the D-backs can use to their advantage. There's not a lot, but the one thing is, he's not the best on the first pitch. He gives up like a 314 average and over 800 OPS on the first pitch he throws to a batter. So maybe be aggressive early in the counts. He might throw you a fastball or something hanging early just to get ahead early in the count. And so if he throws a fastball down the middle, up a part of the strike zone, if you're Corbin Carroll, you might have to think about swinging at it. My guys like Perdomo, we know he's not afraid to be a little bit patient and to wait for his perfect pitch. But guys who are a little bit less patient, the Lourdes Gurriels of the world, don't be afraid to swing at the first pitch, because it might be the best pitch you get against Brian Wu. And then the lineup, it should be pretty much the same. Brian Wu, a right-handed pitcher, probably should look the same as we saw tonight. Maybe Moreno sits down after coming back off injury, but really like the way the lineup is set up right now. I feel like it's super balanced. No complaints about where the guys are hitting. I think it kind of sucks that Moreno has a bad eighth, but everyone ahead of him is either hot or they're just, good, right? They're Ketel Marte, they're Corbin Carroll, or they're hot like Eugenio Suarez and Lourdes Gurriel, unless your name is Pavin Smith. But I do like Moreno, Thomas duo at the bottom of the lineup. Like we saw tonight, when Thomas is cooking, Moreno is cooking. You got those two guys, 8-9, and then it rolls over to the top of your lineup with Carroll, Marte, Perdomo. That's when the D-backs are absolutely at their most dangerous. And so the D-backs want to get to 16 wins in the month of June. They're going to need their offense to continue to do what they did tonight, and they're going to need Erod to do his best Brandon Pfaadt impression in this series finale. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.